Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. So yeah, I think that, let me bring up the agenda. Oh, I don't have the agenda in the pack here, the latest pack. But I think we're starting with facilities, right?
Yes.
Mike, we'll do facilities update, then we go into the capital budget review.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Not a whole lot to update with facilities. We have our new custodian who started middle school 1-3 of this year. Fernando retired. Robert Food has stepped in. He was a groundsman whose position had gotten cut towards the end of last year. I mentioned a little bit about that last meeting. This past month or so, we've had a pretty good uptick of facilities out with COVID. Luckily, at this point now, we're back to 100%. But we definitely had skeleton crew there for a couple of weeks, but we're back 100%. Basically, it's just this point, the heating season, and the way the temperatures are fluctuating, we're starting to have some breakdowns with heating pumps. Right back to 100% as we are right now. Some breakdown of some snow removal equipment as we had our first actual plowable snow in months on Friday. So that's all taken care of. We had a piss and blow on our skid steer. We did it all in house. It's all replaced. So facility wise, that's really all I have to update everybody on. Filters, we just received another shipment. So we're ready to turn around, and we're in the middle of a filter change at this point. Even with the temperatures as low as they are, we're still on the roofs, with the belts and changing out filters. That way we keep that 4 filter change per year active, especially with COVID. We want to keep everything clean. Other than that, it's just status quo. Like I said, we're back to 100% of the buildings. Hopefully we continue the same way. We were given a mass shipment of masks and test kits from the state of Connecticut. So those have been distributed to the schools. Picking up another shipment today, not quite as large, but halfway decent. I'll keep them on hand for handing out as we need to move along.
Couple of things. What are we doing on the buses these days with respect to COVID protocol safety? I mean, is there anything special we're doing on the buses?
Not that I know of. I don't really speak with them other than snow.
That's fine, Mike. I got this one.
Okay.
In terms of protocols, the protocols are the same that we have had in place since the start of COVID. Everyone on the bus, they're wearing their masks, and just for improved ventilation, we do have some of the windows. It's a little bit cold right now, but we do have, as best as we can, we do have windows that are open. So those are our mitigating strategies that has been in place since the start of the pandemic.
Yeah.
If I can add something,
yeah.
One of the concerns that happened, that was raised to me by a parent in December is one of the concerns people like, well, now that we're moving away from contact tracing, for example. And first of all, it should be known that contact tracing is really hard to do on the bus because people say, look at cameras. The kids are so tiny, some of them, that you can't see who the kids are on the camera film because of where they sit on the bus. So anytime that there is a positive case, the facilities or the operations department, Phil's group, is sending out an email to all of the families on that particular bus that just says there was a positive case on the bus. That doesn't mean people are being quarantined. It just gives the heads up to those families, and that seems to be working fine. Just because that's what they would like to know, quite frankly.
Okay. And what are how have we decided to use the test kits?
The test kits
What's that?
Sorry, which kinds of test kits?
Oh, the COVID test.
No, but I mean staff or students.
Oh, well, how have we decided to use them?
We're not doing a massive distribution.
Right.
We have them in the nurse's office. If there is a need that people need the tests, then a kid, let's say, has to be sent home and doesn't feel well, a kid goes home with the kid. If a parent calls and says, I think my kid is sick and I'm reporting my kid sick for COVID, then the nurse says, or is being home, I'm worried, do you need a testing kit? And if
Right.
you do, then we'll make sure that they either, that they can pick one up and that they can get the kit. With staff, it's working pretty much the same way. It's, if you need it, if you're in school and you need a kit, you're given a kit. We don't test ourselves and the kit goes home with them. If a staff member says, let's say a staff member lives, I don't know, in Orange and says, I can't come in, I don't feel well, they don't have a kit, then we'll send a kit up there with somebody that's driving to Orange. Because we have enough staff members and everybody kind of agrees that in the community, I guess, if you will, of employees, that's how we are going to handle it.
Right. Okay. Anything else, Mike, on current facilities?
I have nothing to add. There's really been no large changes, no large breakdowns. No, so we're pretty even.
Okay. Was there anything we needed to do with the Xenon plant? I
The
don't have
Xenon plant, I believe it's just information. I've gotten partial information to hand over to Mark Lancor from Daymar.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll get the rest of it this morning. I had gotten him the information for the analysis for town and elementary school administration building tying into Xenon plant, or how we could actually make another plant, or so that information has been sent off. And they're running the same way, just with, still another delivery of sugar. And Gino's been running. I haven't had a chance to get down there probably in the last, I was out with COVID myself for a couple of weeks. So I'll do my best to get there today and see him. I got to see him about some electrical and plumbing issues anyway. If not, it'll be first thing on Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Just a quick reference to the sugar. I know people are probably wondering why we're using sugar at the Xenon plant. As our site manager likes to say, we like to keep the little bugs happy. So they did recommend that we ship. There was another more expensive product that we were using years back. That pretty much it's like really a sugar additive. It's like sweets to feed the little bugs that's there.
Yeah.
So we just ship that to sugar.
Right.
And it seems to be working okay, and it's more cost effective.
Okay. Good. If there's no other questions on the current facilities update, why don't we move to the capital project list? So, for those of you who haven't been through this before, a couple of years ago, the first selectman, Chris Spalding, basically, when we were talking about long-term plans, right? There was one school of thought that said, oh, okay, eventually, if we actually went to a 3-school configuration, the middle school would be the school that would be taken offline. I don't know. I mean, there was zero analysis done. It was just intuition, I guess, at best, just given the state of the middle school. And so anything that had to do with any renovations to the middle school were actually taken off the capital list, right? And so I think the capital list that we saw today or this week had a lot of Hurlbut stuff on there, but had nothing related to the middle school, which I think was really kind of a hangover from what I think has happened over the last couple of years. Now, what I could see happening, given the current FOC, is that when the Board of Finance sees a bunch of Hurlbut stuff on the list, they'll say, hold off. I thought now we're thinking of potentially reconfiguring Hurlbut, so let's hold off on that. My view is I think it's a mistake to hold off on any of it because before we break ground on anything, it's going to be at least a few years. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done on both of those schools, right? And so my view, and I think the view of the rest of the board, or at least most of the board members, is that we absolutely need to deal with both the priority items that need to get done in the middle school and in Hurlbut. And, Richard, as well as I do, once we put that list together with the town list and the Board of Finance, I mean, it's a big discussion in March, right, about what gets done and what doesn't get done. But I think from our perspective, my view is that we should actually have all the priority items that really need to get done on the list, and then make our best case for with the Board of Finance that these need to get done. I've always had that. I don't know how others feel, but I always had the view that a healthy learning environment actually includes the physical plan. I think that not only for students but for staff, right? And so let's make sure we have the things on the list that really need to get done.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, the number one feedback that the kids at the high school gave when we asked them, like, what's some feedback about the high school was, air condition the parts of the building that aren't. This is terrible. So it's kind of the basic, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What do you need, right?
Yeah. So
Tony, just
yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's okay.
Okay. But no, Richard, I'd like to hear your views on this.
So I'm wondering if you should have a little bit of a fallback position. You more or less budget a certain number of several $100,000 a year for capital upgrades.
Yeah, I think it's I think we've gone along the, I think we've gone down the road of sort of rough numbers around 900 a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just joining or what Lisa said, perhaps you should at least perhaps on the side just say, if we had that money, what would we want to do at the high school? Because that there are tons of projects at the high school to be done. And I don't know how it's going to fit into the discussion that, the town will have in a couple of months about.
Yeah, well, I think Tecton, I don't know if Tecton got back to you with the cost of doing their work on the high school so that it could include it in the entire analysis. Lisa, did Tecton ever get back to you on that? On price tag for the high school?
No, he did not get back on it. He basically said that yes, that he had been approached about that, but he didn't get back to me. Right now, what he's doing is yesterday they had the think tank with talking to the middle school and the intermediate school teachers about grade configurations. They're doing another one. I'm getting this email out now on Tuesday with the elementary school people, which I think is positive. But with regards to the high school, all they got was the feedback that we had taken sort of from the kids to make them feel like, they obviously had a voice, but nothing else more specific than that.
Okay. So, Richard, I hear you. I think we should start with a prioritization of what we absolutely need to get done next year, right? I mean, and then we'll go from there. I hear you. I mean, the fallback position is if stuff has to fall. I mean, I view a fallback position is with, if stuff needs to fall off the list, where do we start, right? And so I think we should actually start with what absolutely needs to get done next year, right?
Yeah, it's so challenging to prioritize. It's just really challenging. Like I look at the list and now it talks about the weight room and the dance studio are on there, right, Mike?
Correct.
That's been an issue since the school reopened when the new building was done. Wasn't done. So it's just, my God, what do you do 15, 20 years later? How can you prioritize that then over air conditioning to instructional spaces? It's really hard.
Well, Lisa, I think that's really, it's your call. I mean,
Thanks, Tony.
it's your call.
Air conditioning for all. Okay.
I think that's an easy answer. How do you prioritize? You and your staff, that you have the first shot.
Okay. And
that's what you get when you have all the power.
And simultaneously, I also would appreciate this group's ideas about prioritizing as well.
Okay.
No, I mean,
no, absolutely.
To do it. It's just, it's part of me feels like it's a lose-lose situation. I don't mean to be dark.
Listen, I think it's in my view, you start with, health and safety, right? I don't
Well,
know.
of course, of
Start with
course,
health and safety and you
That's
move
a given.
down, right?
that's a given.
Yeah.
That is a given.
Let me start going over the addition and the change to capital with how we came about the additions.
Or just, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Mike.
let's go.
Just-
Want to share the list?
Yeah, Tony, just one quick second, just before we move on. So in terms of all the other items as it relates to the high school, we don't necessarily have a lot of items that's on the high school, right? We were sort of kind of delaying a lot of this to see where it's going and overall what their analysis would be for the high school. I mean, we do have the mirroring that of the wing. I think, what is it? So we have the C and D wing, Mike, is that what it is?
Yeah, the mirror C and D wing to what the E wing renovation was back in 2015, 16, something like
Yeah.
that.
So Richard, I know you said there's a lot of items on that we have to do at the middle school. Can you just give me
At the high school.
Can you just give me a little bit more insight as to those items that you have on your list that we probably should be looking at that we don't have on our list?
Phil, I don't have a list. I think what you can do is look at the sections of the buildings that weren't upgraded 20 years ago and include all of that on your list. I mean, you have all the classrooms.
Mhm.
You have to make a decision about the old gym at some point in time. You want to replace the remainder of the windows in the building, and you can keep on going from there.
I mean, 5 minutes with the high school administration can also add on other items that haven't been taken care of. The bathrooms, for example, in the high school, all those bathrooms in the older parts, none of them have been renovated. That comes to mind right off the top. Not to split hairs, but number 13, mirror C and D wings to E. The high school is very oddly numbered. It's actually all of C and part of D and E that needs to be done. Front and back hallways, it's done a little bit differently. The C5 air handler.
Can we put that list up? Can we share that list?
And did you have it handy, or if you don't, I can put it up.
I have it handy actually. I don't know if everyone else does, but
All right, I'll put it. Let me see if I can get it up.
okay.
This is the most. Okay. 1 second. This one. Sure. Can everyone see this?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little small, I guess.
Better?
That's better, yeah.
Okay. All right, Mike.
Okay. So yeah, do you want to start with the high school? Or you want me to start from the beginning?
Yeah, why don't you start from the beginning?
Okay. All right. So additions that we've put in, and some moves that we have done. Anything that we added other than the lockers to the middle school, is health and safety related. So
Right.
we added to match the summer cleaning of all our air handlers, rooftop units, ductwork, exhaust fans. We had, or originally elementary school, we had the middle, we had elementary school, intermediate school, and high school on the list. We've added the middle school. A little bit less length of ductwork, but a lot more units. So I put an additional cost into that. So we actually, the units haven't been cleaned since I've been here. So health and safety wise, it's definitely it's a great idea to clean them, soup to nuts. And we do clean the best that we can, the coils and things. We don't have the machinery or equipment to do the ductwork. So that was one of the things that we added, and that was to line 3. So we added, I believe it was 75,000 to do the middle school. So that was the first addition that we had made. Second addition that we made was from our list from last year. If we were to do things at the middle school, how we prioritize our repairs. The second was all the heating and cooling pumps. The heating and cooling pumps are what brings the hot water or chilled water to the entire building. There are many different pumps that do this. Some are, to the areas to the pool. Some are areas to different wings, gymnasiums, A and B wing. So they're aged. We're pretty much trying to rebuild as we can all through the years. Motors are one thing. Pumps, the pump side, which is the wet side, which actually moves the water to the air handlers, to the rooftop units, to the HV units. They're starting to wear thin. So our gallons per minute are starting to slow down because the sending unit, which is called an impeller, which is bringing the water to the systems, is wearing away. So it would be great to have, all our units cleaned, but as well as units cleaned, we need to be able to feed the hot and cooled water to it, or we're just moving air around from the fresh air. And obviously we know our summers are too hot. We know our winters are too cold, that we definitely need assistance. So we need the hot and cold water to be moving. So A and B wing will work off of main pump. We also have F wing, G wing, H wing, which is three small wings, probably roughly 10 to 14 rooms in the wing that don't have redundancy in the pumping system. They have one pump. Okay. So without redundancy, we can't keep many different pumps on the shelf for backup. So we would take the pumps out, send them to our pump company. They would rebuild all the bearings. They would rebuild all the seals, and they're aged. So we would have to repipe to a dual pump system, add systems to it. So basically, if we have a failure, we're not down heat to a wing for, our pump guy, Danbury Pump and Motor are great. They'll get it back to us within a day. But within that day, we have ice cold rooms. We don't have any kind of way to manipulate heating other than the hot water system. So that's why we brought that to the list. A basic, rough estimate. I will have pretty accurate numbers next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as we just sent all this information out to them on Tuesday. We had to give them all the pictures, all the model numbers, all the part numbers, pipe sizing, everything had to go to them so that they can give us some sort of accurate pricing for replacement. So, I mean, it's just something I think that is necessary to be done. Even if the configuration of the building changes, we still need to get heating water and cooling water to these locations. So that's not going to change. Maybe the rooms will change, bathrooms might change, but the basic layout of these areas with the volume of water that needs to be fed for heating and for cooling, the pumps, they need to be changed. So that's where I stand with the pumps. Anybody have any questions? There's a lot of information for the heating pumps and cooling pumps.
Mike, real quick. So is the plan to systematically replace all the pumps, or is the plan to replace it as we go?
The plan would be the six pumps that we have that don't have redundancy. Sorry, the 4 pumps that we have that don't have redundancy, we would like to have that allocated for a dual pump system. That way, if something fails, we have backup. The other pumps would be nice if we had some sort of, I don't know if you want to call it a sinking fund, but some sort of ability to pull money out. The 2 system pumps probably range anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 a piece, and we have 2 of them. Without those 2 pumps spinning and running, there's no hot water to the building. We've already pulled out a pump this past spring, when the heating season was over, sent it out, had it rebuilt. Once you start rebuilding these, they start to fail. So I would like to, once I get finer numbers, at least change out the smaller pump systems, which would be a 4 pump system, change to an 8 pump system. It would be a lead lag backup system. So that I would definitely like to have. And it would be nice if we could have some sort of fund just in case something large goes down and we can get it ordered through the year. Because like I said, those 2 big system pumps are $10,000 to $20,000. That's not a small figure. And I will have those figures as well next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay.
So Mike, just at the top of your head, the ballpark for the 4 that we want to replace for the redundancy, what are we looking at?
The 4 that we wanted to replace for redundancy, I believe, are somewhere around $15,000 to $20,000
Each.
No, that's the whole setup.
Okay.
Is there anything down on the 2024 and beyond list that we need to move into 2023?
And while you're looking at that, Mike, how long, if we replace these pumps, how long do you expect them to last for?
I mean, pumps generally, I mean, they come with about a 5-year warranty on them, but they will last a long time. Everything. Let me put it in, for instance, the 2 large system pumps that we have in now, 1960s, okay, have never been replaced. So they do last quite a while. I mean, that's 60 years that they've been in place. They've been pulled out a couple times for a motor rebuild or for a pump rebuild, but they're getting to that age when they just don't, we're not sending the volume. And we noticed on the last couple of days that we were very cold that we weren't supplying the right heating water to the system just because we couldn't move the volume of water. So years wise, we'll probably get another 35, 50 years out of them. I know things that were made back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s last, 3-4 times as long as what is made now, but we'll get at least another, 15, 20, 25, 30 years out of these pumps minimum. I mean, we are a little bit more abusive with our system here because we do have rooftops. Okay, because we have rooftops, which means we have to add an anti-freezing agent, which is glycol. And the glycol is very corrosive to seals. And without the seals, if the seals wear, then we have leaks. And also the water with the glycol is very corrosive on the brass, the impellers, which sends the water through. So, I mean, we've been glycol since 2005, I believe it is. We had to get rid of the water, so we had some problems with freezing. And so to answer your question, I'm going to say at least 20 to 30 years at minimum before a rebuild.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. And I would say anything that needs to be moved up, I would say no. I mean, the only thing that we may want to look into if we start shuffling things around would be just fire panels. But no, I think where we are right now, we're in pretty good shape. I don't think we need to move anything up. But we still do have a couple of things that we shuffled around. If you want me to go through that, still with the 23 list, the FY23 list.
Mike, the fire panel on the if you stay away from the middle school and Hurlbut would be an easy one to get approved.
Yeah, that's what we did. We broke it down as to the intermediate school, high school this year, middle school, elementary school next year, with that in mind. But
okay,
thanks, Richard.
And that's okay to do? That's you're comfortable doing that?
What it does is we still have a good 5 years of getting material and parts and having communication with those 2 schools. So we have time for it. It's just going to have to allow for a few more repairs to be done through the year as the systems just get older and wiring gets older and the cards get older. But yes, I'm comfortable with doing a 2 this year, 2 next year, or however we. The one thing that do you want to keep continuing with the fire panels or the pumps, or you want me to continue to the next? Any other questions?
Hold on for 1 second. I actually need to go offline for a second.
Okay.
Why don't you
While Tony goes offline, let me just ask a question since I'm new to this committee and I don't sit on the facilities optimization committee. I think, Richard, do you sit on the facilities optimization committee?
No, I'm a visitor.
Oh, okay. Well, at least you've attended then. You're one up on me. I guess what I'm wondering is we have a timetable for when we would start any type of project, but I would imagine there's also a different timetable for when we would start making decisions in terms of where we're heading, if it's 4 buildings or 3 buildings. What is a timetable for decisions versus actual build start dates? I mean, how far out are we looking for some of these? Does anyone have any idea? I know Tony probably does, but anyone else?
I personally couldn't even begin to guess, but I would have to imagine you're probably in that ballpark of that 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Decisions obviously will come quicker, but as to when that decision will be made, I couldn't even speak of it.
Yeah.
I don't sit in the committee very often.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of what I was wondering.
Yeah, I'm just afraid with the middle school, especially with the smaller pump systems with no redundancy. I can guarantee that they're not going to last 3 to 5 years. We pretty much pull them out on
Yeah.
a once or twice a year basis, which shuts down a certain wing of an entire row of classrooms of heat for at least a day. Like I said, we have a great pump company, but 24 hours or a full day of classes when you're trying to keep a building warm or trying to keep a building cool is just it's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, we could definitely keep a money allotment aside for the larger pumps, but our chiller pumps and things like that are original to building, they definitely need some work.
Um,
Okay.
Melissa, will you, I heard my name. Would you,
Yes,
was there a
I was,
question?
well, the question I was asking was the timetable for facilities optimization in terms of not just when a potential build start date would be, but what's the timetable for making a decision in terms of where the town is going, 4 buildings versus 3 buildings? If it's 3, which 3 are we
I think the
investing in?
most optimistic timetable is probably the end of the school year. That's the most optimistic, and I
okay.
don't really. I have my doubts because of
Okay.
all of the community conversations and workshops and that need to be had.
Okay.
I think that, yeah, I think we probably will have a very good idea of trajectory, right? By the end of the school year, but I don't think we will have everything nailed
Okay.
down.
So it's going to factor more into next year's budget cycle, less so this. It's
Yeah,
too much of an unknown this year. Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Okay. I think, and so, yeah, I'll give, Lisa and I'll give probably more of an update when we get to the next agenda item, which is the FOC, but I think
Okay.
that's the most
Yeah.
optimistic, I
No,
think.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to place all these things on this list in terms of, what's a smart investment long term, and also, the points we were making during our budget workshops, which is,
Yeah.
if you're investing in the academics and the plant breaks down, then, if your academic investment is
At risk.
wasted, yeah,
Right.
at risk.
Right. No, I get it.
Okay.
Mike, I have a quick question, and
Sure.
It's not a make work question, but I think it feeds into Melissa's inquiry just now.
Okay.
And a comment you made about 2 things. One, you haven't had a large breakdown, and there's some interesting hardware. I'm a nuts and bolts guy myself that has to be implemented. If you twisted this list on horizontally and made sort of a Gantt chart, do you know in time how much time you need to implement sort of the major things, which you'll prioritize? And part B is it's pretty independent. Each activity seems that's a job, that's a job, that's a job. Is there any coupling? Is there anything that's 2 things that are dependent on each other? If you're going to do a pump, is it better to do it and when you work on a handler at the same time? I mean, things like that. Is there a way of optimizing the work so you can kind of kill 2 birds with one stone? Independence?
The work can be done simultaneously, but it's independent. The cleaning of the ductwork and the air handlers and all that, that's all the actual air that moves around. Now on the pump side, that's all the water, that's all the hot water and the cold water that feeds the actual coils, which heat and cool the areas. So although they work in unison, the work is, it's done separately. And could
Right.
it be?
If you don't attend to one thing, does it sort of undermine the work you did on something else? Or where I'm going is there a way of saying these 2 really go together? So if we're going to put our work into one area, let's make sure these 2 things happen simultaneously together, so we don't undermine each job.
It's really unrelated. I mean, obviously, for optimization, for efficiency, to have the pumps rebuilt and the air handlers and ductwork cleaned at the same time is ideal. If it had to be a year off, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
That's good. That granularity helps a lot, right? Because it's sort of in time, we're going to have to figure out what to do first and when to do each job, and hopefully not defer something that affects something else.
Right.
Good.
Richard and Mike, these costs here, obviously in this environment, do we, when you go to the Board of Finance, I don't even think that these will be, I mean, there'll be quote unquote hard numbers, but who knows what the inflation factor is on these numbers right now, right? Do we know? I don't know.
Most of our pricing that we have right now is up to date, as in the last 30 days when I have.
Oh, okay.
So this isn't going off of Silver Petrocelli, other than the middle school lockers that I added. So that would have to be updated.
Right.
I have an updated price for the middle school art room sinks. It's 18,009 and change. So let's call that 19,000. I just got yesterday. Now that's not to say that from January 13th to May 25th, when we order everything, that it may not go up a couple of percent. But at this point, we're pretty accurate to the last 30 days.
Okay, that's good to know.
That's helpful.
Any other questions?
Let me just go through the other couple things.
Okay.
We didn't talk about the art room multi-base sinks. So
Okay.
they're multi-base sinks. Okay. What we have in the middle school, C21, 22, 23, 24, 2 art rooms, 2 science rooms. It's built in larger sinks in cabinetry. The cabinetry is falling apart. The sinks are falling apart. The faucets are out of date. Very hard to get parts for. Very hard to rebuild. Sediment trap is failing. Sediment trap collects all the solids. So if you're washing your paintbrushes out, the paint will get collected. The liquid water will go to the sewage treatment plant. If you're working with clay, the clay will get held back. They're failing. So we're starting to bring signs of bringing some solids back. We just take them apart more often. That way the bottom of the traps are cleaned. What I'm proposing, and what I proposed, I believe back in 2015, was there are 3-bay stainless steel sinks, similar to what we have in commercial kitchens, similar to what we have in the STEM wing of the middle school, completely removable, completely reusable. So this isn't built in place. And if the middle school art rooms get changed or the middle school science rooms get changed, that we're going to put them in storage and they're going to dry rot in 5 years. These are completely reusable. We have 2 kitchens in the elementary school that could take them immediately. As time goes on, we have, sinks are getting older in the high school kitchen and the intermediate school kitchen. If we want to put it into another art room, they're completely removable. They're freestanding, piped in with new faucets. So it's not built in place and thrown away or put in storage, very easily reused. And that's updated price as of this morning, actually, that 18,928 and 28 cents, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a throwaway, put away. That can be repurposed anywhere we want on campus.
All right.
Right.
That's great.
Just to clarify from the pricing perspective, although we have some quotes here, just to adhere to our purchasing policy, we'd probably either need to get some additional bids or quotes, or depending on the price and level, we may need to do an official RFP, just so that we're adhering to our pricing policy.
Okay.
Mike, I would just have one suggestion.
Sure.
And since generally you try to do the projects over the summer, and history shows us right now that it may be difficult to secure some of the material that would be needed, such as, let's say, fire alarm panels, lockers, etc. It may make sense to make some inquiries, although you'll never get a commitment per se, as to how long, if you ordered the fire alarm panel in May, would it be available to be installed over the summer?
Yeah, we were assured. That was one of the questions that I had asked them already. If we were to, when the money got freed up and somewhere in the middle of May, if we were to order it at that point, would they have it? They said absolutely.
Yeah.
As far as the sinks, same thing. It's about a 4 to 8 week period for lead time. Lockers, I've just put this on the list. I need to reach out to the locker company and see what an updated price would be, and exactly with your comment to see if it's going to be readily available for, the beginning of July or the very latest, the beginning of August.
Yeah, because I've been told the lockers can be 4 months.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you're right with that.
So, yeah, I think that'll be important.
Absolutely.
And your mechanical equipment, if you look to air condition the weight training room, I don't know what size unit you need, but you might check on the availability.
Yeah, that's also the 6 to 12 week period, like everything else. So yeah, it's extended for sure with trying to get things on the shelf. But yeah, thanks for the advice. The only other move that we did was, since it's the track, the track is a joint use facility with the town, Board of Ed, and Parks and Rec. Their final payment of $60,000 will not be in until, I believe, 24 into 24. So we have dropped the track one year back, so that'll be up by 24 as opposed to this year. We have spoken to Mark, and he said that wouldn't be an issue. We may have to do a little bit of fine tuning just for a little bit of cracks, but this was already the plan, so we're okay with moving that down to 24.
Okay.
Capital wise, I believe that's all I have that are changes, unless you guys want to go over something specific.
Go over what?
Anything
I'm sorry.
specific?
No,
Anything
I'm
specific?
good. Anything else?
I had one question. I saw you added the 7th and 8th grade lockers back in. Are those lockers that are permanent? Can they be moved like the sinks?
Yeah,
What-
I mean,
what is-
lockers are basically just they're built by size. So the only thing that would be different is maybe some of the cover pieces that would go from a wall stanchion, which would be holding a load bearing wall, but they do bolt in place, very easily removed and put somewhere else. Would we use them somewhere else? That I couldn't say, because we don't have lockers in the intermediate school. We have lockers in the high school, but they're not used. So would we reuse them somewhere else? That I couldn't even begin to tell you.
No,
But they certainly could be moved. Absolutely, 100%.
okay. Yeah, I was thinking more within the middle school, depending on
Mhm.
how plans
Yeah,
develop.
yes, they
or
could be
building.
moved.
Yeah. Okay.
Hold on for 1 minute.
Sure.
Sorry about that. Okay. Too many calls coming in during this meeting.
Yes, there is. For me too.
I have to shut off my phone. All right. So the next item is an update on facilities optimization. So let me tell you a little bit of what's going on in terms of the work that Tecton is doing right now. There's kind of two streams of work. One is that Antonia is meeting with the staff to basically look at different options of grade configurations, programmatic needs, really trying to kind of think a little bit more, work with the staff on a vision for what our, how we anticipate delivering education in the future, how we deliver education in today, what is important from a staff and student perspective, to start to gather ideas so that when they come up with options, these options really are based on really a series of in-depth conversations with staff and students, right? That's one stream of work, and they've had, I guess, yesterday was another session. I don't know, Phil, if you were in on that session at all.
I was not.
You were not. Yeah, it's mostly with the academic staff, and on Tuesday, Antonia from Tecton will give us an update on all the work that's been going on. And it's actually pretty exciting. And I think she's done a really, really good job on creating some excitement around the work that they're doing. So that's kind of one stream of work that's going on. The second stream of work that's going on with Tecton is that internally what they're looking at is actually kind of developing kind of a baseline cost for bringing our facilities, and these and the facilities we're talking about right now is Hurlbut and the middle school, up to what I call code, right? Or nothing changed. Like, for example, uh, structurally nothing changes, configuration nothing changes, just the baseline cost of bringing everything back as new, but with no changes to configuration, right? And that's what they would call kind of a baseline cost, right? Because ultimately we're going to have to compare any potential configuration, including programmatic changes, including a real change in how we use the space. We're going to have to compare those costs to some sort of baseline cost, right? So really no proposals on the table yet. There's a lot of discussions with staff and some groundwork being done on developing some baseline costs, because I think the Silva Petrocelli study kind of the prices, and I think the priorities in that 2017 studies would view as being quite stale, Richard, right? I mean,
the prices, I think we both agreed, and the architect agreed, are not reliable.
right. And so that's kind of when. So I anticipate in the next community meeting, which is in March, I think March 2nd, that will have evolved a little bit more in terms of maybe some potential set of options that might be on the table. Very, very preliminary. And I'm not sure if, and maybe some sort of idea of the kinds of costs we might be talking about. But I don't think cost is going to be part of the discussion in March. But I think that we might get in March a series of potential options in terms of where we might be heading, right? And so Tuesday there'll be an update at the monthly meeting. But that's kind of what's happening now. And I think that internally, I don't know, Phil, but internally, I think that I think there's a bit of excitement about, the view that, finally, we're taking this seriously. And I think that the staff and the administration now is really digging in with Tecton, which I was concerned about initially, about how we would engage with Tecton. But I think that Tecton's, and especially Antonia, has done a really good job engaging with the schools,
I do agree with that, Tony.
Yeah. So it's not clear. So, the way things are proceeding now is, I think that, my view is that there's still a question about the use of Hurlbut and how that, if we were basically going to go to and I don't even think it's a 3-school campus. I think it's more of how do you basically make best use of Hurlbut, which is probably the one that's the most logical school to actually, if we were going to basically reconfigure a school to have some town use as well, it would probably be Hurlbut would be that school, right? And then the question is, how many grades can you fit in WIS, and what is the grade configuration for the middle school? but I think ultimately that's going to probably lead to, what do you do with pre-K, K, and first grade, because you're not going to fit all those grades into WIS, which may lead to a, some sort of structure for pre-K, K, and first grade, right? So my view, I don't think after doing that work, I don't think a three school campus is going to be the one that's going to be the leading it's not going to be the leading candidate. I think it may be like 3.5 schools, that kind of thing. Because even Tecton doesn't believe we can actually do what we need to do, deliver the education we need to deliver, and fit everybody into 3 schools without significant construction work. I don't know, Richard. I mean,
No, I think you're right, Tony. I think it probably would be very impractical to try to move pre-K, K, first grade to the intermediate school. They have different classroom requirements and toilet requirements. I think you have to have, when you're at that lower level, you have to have individual toilets in the classrooms. I think the approach of a separate and distinct little campus for those early years makes a lot of sense.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, educationally, we'd have to hear from the educators on that. But structurally, as far as buildings go, I think it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So that's kind of where everything is. There's more on Tuesday. Also on January 29th, which I believe is a Saturday, there's going to be scheduled a community is going to be invited to walk through our buildings. And so I think that's Lisa was a big proponent of that. She wanted, if we're going to basically go down this road, I think we should invite the community to come in one day, and we'll have the administrators at each building and have them give tours of our facilities. So not only could they see the work that needs to be done, but they also can see all of the good that's going on in our schools as well, right? It's not all doom and gloom. There's some really good things that are happening as well in our school buildings. So that's kind of it for an update on the FOC, unless there's other questions. Yep. Okay. Maybe we'll go to finance portion of our agenda.
Okay, I'm going to leave you.
All right, Richard.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Have a nice weekend.
You too.
I'm going to be leaving too. Thank you, everybody. Have a great
Sure.
weekend.
Thanks, Mike.
Go on, Mike. All right.
Thanks.
So we're at that point in the fiscal year historically where things are sort of kind of just trying to come into shape, right? We can have a better sense as to how things are trending and really where we think we're going to be at the end of the year.
This is where Phil tells us he has all this extra money. No.
To that point, so what we have done for this month is that for those object codes that we have some greater clarity, we've started to reduce or just to adjust or update anticipated expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
We have made adjustments to health insurance, workers' comp insurance, cleaning services, but that's because of reimbursement, general insurance, and excess cost reimbursement. The only item here that is a negative in terms of an adjustment is excess cost reimbursement.
Mhm.
So there's a quite a few. So I'll just step through each one just so you guys
Yeah.
will get a better sense as to where we are. So as it relates to benefits, we've definitely reduced our anticipated net expenditure, our net anticipated for health insurance, and this is primarily driven by census. We're still holding a slight reserve, so to speak, because we do believe that we may need to add a few benefits package for the remainder of the year. So we may still have some play there. So the net adjustment for health insurance is about 200,000.
Yeah.
Workers' comp, I think we did discuss that we saw
Bill,
some.
remind me of the salary, the salary surplus.
So we haven't released the salary surpluses yet. So
Well, you have a balance available.
we do have a balance available. What is that? I think
265.
yeah, 265 overall. Is it? Hold on. 26. Oh, so that balance goes back. What was it? So there's a lot of items. I have to go back to our records. So this had to do with cost savings that we had. We had the EREP savings that we saw with the EREP.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. This
Okay.
really goes back to stuff that we discussed
Yeah.
earlier in the year.
Yeah.
The grid level changes and the like. So that particular thing, those are not new.
Okay. Yep.
I mean, we can recap or if we need to.
No. I just wanted.
Yeah, we can go back and kind of rehash where all this is.
Pumps are
coming
not the
out.
only things that go bad after 60 years. I have trouble remembering sometimes.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. So health insurance. So 200,000. We have workers' comp, and that's just because of claims experience and rate reductions of 15,000. The cleaning services positive adjustment that I'm reflecting. This has to do with a reimbursement that goes back to last fiscal year, and this has something to do with our FEMA reimbursement and the Department of Emergency Services. So we did receive additional reimbursement of about $14,000. So I'm just reflecting that as that is going to be available. Net overall insurance adjustment or rate year-over-year increase is $2,300. This year, there was a significant change this year with our cyber insurance. For the past several years, our cyber coverage has been included in our overall lab policy. KERMA decided for this fiscal year that they were no longer going to offer that at no cost or as a part of our overall lab policy. So we had to go out and purchase lab coverage. All of our costs are shared with the town. Our overall increase, the overall cost for that cyber coverage is about $23,000. Our portion of that is about $14,000. It's around $14,000. So that's a significant shift to last year. But we did have money available. We did receive an equity distribution for this year as well, which helped to mitigate the cost of the cyber coverage. As I mentioned, we're definitely seeing a reduction to our excess cost reimbursement. There's a lot of expenditure that we anticipated would cost us a lot more in terms of placements. A lot of that did not happen, and we're seeing a reduction in what we anticipate for excess cost reimbursement. I have not yet released any. We do still have available as of November about $300,000 in our combined tuition and litigation line, our settlements line. I have not released any of those funds as yet because we still have some items that are in play, which may not allow us to release the full amount. We do not really know for certain as to what exactly will happen for the end of the year, so I'm still holding that for right now. Also trending for the excess for our revenue offsets. I'm a little bit concerned about certain items, gate receipt, parking fees, and theater receipts. So we may see a negative adjustment for our revenue offsets. So pretty much where we are overall for the year to date are projected. We do have a slight surplus. It's not a lot. I think we are currently at about $61,000, which is a reversal of our deficit that we have been trending. So, so just the broad financials, that's pretty much where we are. Tony, you muted.
So, we're at the point in the year, where are things kind of settling down? Where are the big items here that are the swing factors now?
I'm gonna let you guess. The swing SPED.
SPED.
SPED is really the areas where we're seeing some swing factors. So there's a few things of concern, right? We do have some turnover in staffing, which may require that we may need to use some outside services a little bit more than we thought. Hopefully not, but there's a lot of play in our staff, and that may give us some exposure, so to speak. So.
Yeah.
So we have salaries and we have SPED. Those are really the big ticket items that we have. We're keeping a close eye and on utilities to see how that may be trending for the remainder of the year. But in terms of big ticket items, I would say would be salaries and SPED. But so this is why we're still holding money in that anticipated columns. So when you look at in those columns, you may see that we have money there.
Yeah.
Some of that really for stipends are real. And we definitely will need to pay that out. But in the broad categories of expenditures, I'm just going to wait a little bit more. And again, maybe at the end of the third quarter, I'll start to release and really have a better sense as to the trend for the remainder of the year.
Yeah. So right now I'm just trying to look at we don't really, you don't really, you don't have, in the details of financials, you don't have any balance available though. You're just watching it, right?
Correct.
I don't see it. Yeah. So
correct.
You haven't made a decision that there's balance available right now to be used in other places. You're waiting on that.
We are waiting on that at this time.
Okay. Do we anticipate more out? Do we anticipate on the outplacement line? Do we anticipate? I know in the budget, Tracy anticipated for next year an increase in outplacement based on known outplacements. Do we have this year? And, do we anticipate additional outplacements that were not in the budget, or those, are the ones that she's talking about that are anticipated really are not going to happen until next fiscal year?
So tricky, right?
Yeah.
So we did have one this year. Well, we had a few, right? So we had some play. So we had in migration, we had out migration. That's really affecting overall numbers. Now, and just in terms of, just broadly speaking, in terms of mental health, right, of all of our population, we do have those lingering concerns.
Right.
So a lot is still at stake, and a lot is still uncertain as to what may really happen for the remainder of the year. I know we may have a few that may still go out. We're doing our very best to keep them in place, and keep them in district. But it just continues to be concerning, and it still remains fluid. And I hope it doesn't seem as if I'm trying to skirt the topic.
No, I understand. It's just that I think it's something to watch and report on every month.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely will.
And last year was a COVID year as well. So I'm wondering how many in last year's budget cycle, how many out of district placements did we project and estimate, and how many actually happened? I think Tracy gave us the numbers that actually happened. Do you happen to recall what we budgeted for? I'm just wondering how accurate we are. If last year, we were faced with a similar kind of pattern in terms of the disruption the students were facing.
Yeah, in terms of disruption, in terms of, let's just focus on the dollar cost, right? The dollar cost for that particular line, that line is at zero right now. We've spent all the money as of January. That line is zero. So there's nothing left in the tuition line. We do have money that could go either way, and I spoke with Tracy yesterday in terms of settlements. There are still some settlements that's not been encumbered in our system, but we are aware of them. So this is why we haven't released anything. Again, it's just the need vary, right? So we did plan more significant needs for some students that may have shifted a little bit, but we have seen additional flowing in place of that. So this is why you're seeing that reduction in our excess costs. So we anticipated a higher need, which is not that much, but the students that we currently have, they're not meeting that threshold for excess costs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's sort of like law of small numbers. It's like
It is.
it's just, you get it right. But when you look at the details, it may have come from something you didn't expect, right?
Correct. Yeah, it is truly a little bit it's challenging, right? And because of where we are and because of the significant increase, just to shift a little bit to the budget for next year, we did not put in any reserve or contingency for any new placement for next year, just because there's still some variability in terms of what may actually happen. So again, just trying to walk that balance between holding money and being fiscally responsibly, it's a little bit, it becomes challenging, especially with the sheer increase that we have overall in various categories. So we're rolling the dice a little bit, and we're hoping that things will work out in a positive way. Tracy did mention that she sees glimmers of hope. I don't like when she says that, because I can see that when she said that she's optimistic. When we spoke, we definitely do not think that we will make a change or be in a better place maybe for another 2 or 3 years, because we will still see the residual effect of COVID work throughout our system. So we're hoping that we'll have some pricing stability or some funding stability, which I think if we can get to that point where we can level fund SMID PPS, that'll make everyone happy. But in terms of just a broad need for our student population, we're maybe thinking 2 to 3 years. So that's what it is. For the broader financial update, and for internal services, December was one of the largest months that we've seen. We're just attributing that to people being off and just trying to play catch up to all the COVID years, but we're still trending favorable. So that's pretty much where we are, guys. Bless you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions on the financial update? No. Okay. If you take, I don't know if you've looked at the minutes, but like a motion to approve the minutes of the December minutes.
Yes. I move to approve the minutes from the Facilities Finance Committee's meeting in December. 2021.
Second. Okay,
second.
thank you, Peter. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Minutes are approved. Any other business? No? All right. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, great. Have a wonderful weekend.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Keep
You as
warm.
well. Enjoyed a long weekend.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, we have to deal with snow.
Yeah.
Probably
We'll see you Tuesday.
Monday afternoon into evening, right? Just
Yeah.
on it.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.